Are we set? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 18, 2021 Arts and Culture Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Vyar,
Here.
Vidor,
Here.
Zadorian,
Here.
Vice Chair Yank,
Here.
Chairperson Tufenkian.
Here.
Agenda item 1A, regular business agenda, report of the recorder, reposting of the agenda. The agenda for the March 18th, 2021 regular meeting was posted on March 12th, 2021 on the bulletin board outside of City Hall. Agenda item 2, consent items. A, approval of the regular meeting minutes from the February 18th, 2021 meeting.
I have a question about, this is Arlene, I have a question about 5E on that item, which was the extension of more funding for the Choral Fellow. Was that specified what that funding was to be used for, or is it general?
Thank you, Commissioner Vidor. Yes, Jennifer Fukushima, Jones Arts and Cultural Administrator. The funding would be utilized for a spring project in which the fellow would focus on creating and drafting a mural application and mural process. So we discussed that during the meeting.
Okay, so it's specific to the mural process. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions or corrections? If not, do we have a motion to move this?
I make a motion to move the minutes of February 18th, 2021 for the regular meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission.
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Marlene.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Blanket second.
I have a second by Commissioner Vice Chair Yank. So I will do roll call. Commissioners Vyar, Vidor,
Yes.
Zadorian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Yank,
Yes.
Chairperson Tufenkian.
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 2B, approval of the special meeting minutes of March 5th, 2021.
Are there any, let's see, I'm sorry, we're on the second one, the minutes. We want that, introduction and presentations.
We will have to move the special meeting minutes from March.
I move
Thank you.
approve the, I move we approve the minutes of the March 5th special meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Roll call. Commissioners Vyar,
Yes.
Vidor,
Yes.
Zadorian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Yank,
Yes.
Chairperson Tufenkian.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Agenda item 3, introductions and presentations. A, library and culture events presented by Jennifer Fukushima Jones, Arts and Culture Administrator. Pardon me while I pull this up. First up, we have Use It to Diffuse It. Good luck with that. Now on exhibit through March 31st, nightly from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Central Library Reading Spa windows. With support of the Glendale Arts and Culture Commission and the University of California, Santa Barbara, artist Kate Sikorsky will present Use It to Diffuse It. Good luck with that. An interactive site-specific animation on the Reading Spa windows of Central Library, March 15th through 31st, 2021 from 7 to 9 p.m. In this work, Sikorsky treats sight as a form for metaphorical exploration, rendering some of the most cognitive distortions held by those in power. Sikorsky's animated drawings hazard artists' answers to how the violence of inequality is perpetuated by those with relatively more power. Viewers may recognize references to Derek Bell's Face at the Bottom of the Well, Rainbow Bright's Big Color Mix-Up episode, Alice in Wonderland, The Three Caballeros, Monty Python, Cinderella, Little Nemo, and others. Her 12-act ballad of interactive animation will show nightly from 7 to 9 p.m. and is free to the public. To experience the work, viewers are invited to park in the library's south parking lot as you would drive in for a movie theater, or view the digital projection images from the lawn of Central Park. Please observe social distance and wear mask-wearing guidelines. For more information, please visit the link on the screen. As part of the Be the Change series, join authors John Lee, Arazada, and Kate Leahy as discuss their book Lavash, the bread that launched 1,000 meals, plus salads, stews, and other recipes from Armenia, with journalist and creator of Dining in Diaspora, Liana Agajanian. You can check out Lavash as an ebook from Cloud Library or request to pick up a hard copy using our contactless pickup services. Signed copies of Lavash are also available for purchase with our partner Audiobooks. For more information, please visit the link on the screen. Continuing with the Be the Change series, political consultant and commentator Mark Hakopian will be in conversation with Salpi Karazian, director of the USC Institute for Armenian Studies, about Armenia Now. This pre-recorded conversation will premiere on April 8th at 6:30 p.m. For more information, please visit the link on the screen. As part of the Be the Change series, author and lecturer Katik Moradian will discuss his book, The Resistance Network, in conversation with filmmaker and screenwriter Eric Nazarian. Pick a copy of The Resistance Network using our contactless pickup services. Signed copies of The Resistance Network will be available for purchase from our partner, Audiobooks. For more information, visit the link on the screen. In addition to Armenian Genocide Remembrance Month, GLAC will also celebrate National Library Week, April 4th to 10th, 2021. The theme for this year's National Library Week is Welcome to Your Library. During the COVID-19 pandemic, library workers continue to exceed their community's demands and adapt resources and services to meet their users' needs during these challenging times. Whether people visit in person or virtually, libraries offer endless opportunities to transform lives through education and lifelong learning. April 6th acknowledges National Library Workers Day, which is an ideal time to thank your local librarians and staff. April 7th is Library Giving Day, which is a perfect time to support organizations such as the Glendale Libraries and Culture Trust and the Brand Associates. And April 8th is Take Action for Libraries Day, which acknowledges volunteers such as our Arts and Culture Commission members who are continually supporting the work of the GLAC. So we join us in celebrating National Library Week and supporting your local library. And that is it for the
Thank you, Jennifer. May also add that if viewers go to see the Lightwave show at the library, they can also, I believe on the other end of the library, through the front doors, see the 15,000 and more, a plethora of light and darkness, which is installed inside of the library. So thank you. And moving on to the next item.
agenda item 4, oral communications. At this point, I don't believe we have any oral communications. We don't have any callers today. So I will plan to move on to agenda item 5A. Report on the postponement of the Lightwaves Art Happens Anywhere public art exhibit. Motion to approve the postponement of the Art Happens Anywhere public art exhibit Lightwaves from by 1111 Creative Collective to October to November 2021, and to direct staff to prepare an amendment to the art display agreement with 1111 Creative Collective, which requires the remaining funds disbursement according to an updated production timeline of the exhibit's installation. Again, this is Jennifer Fukutomi-Jones, Principal Administrator. We currently have an art display agreement with Lightwaves, with the 1111 Creative Collective. They were originally going to launch the exhibit at the end of March, but due to the pandemic and the social distancing requirements, and the interactivity required to engage with the installation, the artists are asking for a temporary postponement until after the pandemic has cleared, in order to have safe interaction with the exhibit and the installation. I believe you're on mute, Chairperson Tifinkian.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from fellow commissioners? Let's see, let's go down. Commissioner Villar,
No comment.
Commissioner Vidor,
I'm kind of glad because I think that the darkness of November will be, if I understand this exhibit, more amenable to the exhibit. And then, of course, we'll have less of a pandemic as well. So I'm for it.
and Commissioner Zadorian.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with all of you and postponing. It sounds like a good idea so that there's more viewership.
And Vice Chair Yang.
Yes, agreed. No further comments to add.
Okay. Roll call, please. Or, sorry, we need to move it, right?
I make a motion to, I guess, approve the postponement of the Lightwaves Art Happens Anywhere public art exhibit.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call. Commissioners Zadorian,
Yes.
Villar,
Yes.
Vidor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Yank,
Yeah.
Chairperson Tifinkian.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 5B, report on the 2020-2021 Art Happens Anywhere projects. Motion to approve a production timeline extension for 10 remaining 2020-2021 Art Happens Anywhere projects to June 2022 due to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Again, Jennifer from the Culture Administrator. As with the previous agenda item, we still do have a remaining 10 out of the 17 projects that we are waiting to launch due to various reasons associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. So staff is recommending the extension of these projects to launch until June 2022.
Jennifer, can you please give us a reminder of what these 10 remaining projects were?
Sure. I have them. I will read them off here. They are Yoshito Meditating in the Woods by Ayumi Chisholm, which is the mural which would take place at the YMCA. California Love by Alto Chacon, which is the mural which would take place at the Verdugo Skate Park. Meter Pole Art by Jennifer Benson Gable. Impending Storm by the Blue Marble Art Collective. Ride Like the Wind by Kathy Herenda. The Drive-Through Art Festival by the Museum of Neon Art, Armenian Folk Dance and Music by Lernzag Folk Dance and Music Ensemble, Projected Visions by Ryan Griffin, Color and Dance by VersaStyle Dance Company, and as we just discussed, Light Waves by 1111 Creative Collective.
Thank you. Okay, any questions or thoughts from fellow commissioners? Commissioner Villar?
No, I just fully support the postponement. Thank you.
And Commissioner Vidor?
Are all of these strictly related to COVID? The need to because of the pandemic, or are some of them related to logistical issues? And if so, if there are any logistical issues like interdepartmental things that have to be secured, could we have an understanding of what those might be?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Commissioner Vidor. Thank you. Majority of them are associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, the Armenian dance and folk music, unfortunately, we haven't been able to because we cannot have social gatherings. Drive-Through Art Festival with Museum of Neon Art, we can't have gatherings. So a lot of these are associated with the pandemic. Some of these, as you mentioned, are associated with interdepartmental clarifications, and we are moving through that. But as anticipated, due to the pandemic, there's a a little bit of a process that's been delayed because there are several projects that the city is undergoing at this moment. Director Schaefer, is there anything you'd like to comment or add?
Gary Schaefer, Director, Library Arts and Culture. Yeah, so we're having some delays. For instance, the Mural Authority has moved to our commission, but we were informed we don't yet have a process. So as you all know, we're working through that. So that is stalling a few of the mural pieces. And then, for instance, Kathy Horenda's piece, Ride Like the Wind. We've been in talks with Kathy and have agreed that it might be better to place that at the Central Library. So we are talking to her about doing that. And that would be looking at the November timeframe when the current artwork display agreement expires for the art that's there now from Scott Froschauer. So thank you.
May I?
Here's
Thank you.
So my only problem with this is that there's lots of projects that we initially said no to because they would have been better in person or after COVID. And so we're giving these few individuals or groups kind of, they're getting the benefit of now being able to do it after COVID. So there could have been the chance for other groups to have done it. So there's a little, I'm a little worried on the fairness of it all because we could have approved other projects if we had known we were going to postpone to this point where people could experience them in person during the summer, great weather, outdoors. Yes, socially distanced, but something about it is kind of rubbing me the wrong way. And how are we going to make it up to some of these people that we initially had said no to? Thinking, hey, we don't want it over Zoom. We want this in person, but we're going to say no, or this isn't going to be great right now during COVID. So what are we going to do in the future to kind of make up for that and incorporate other groups as well now that we will be able to do it? Because now there's a bigger group of ideas that we could incorporate as to what we want to do. So I just want to hear back from all of you and what you think.
Might I address that, Chair Tefankian? Okay, so
Yes.
Chair Tefankian and Commissioner Zadorian, I think, we had limited dollars. We increased the budget. So it wasn't always just because of the pandemic that you all agreed to fund things or not fund things. And there were actually some that you chose to go ahead and fund knowing that it would have to take place once we could gather socially. We also, I believe, all assumed that this pandemic would be over far sooner than it was. So I recall some specific pieces that we looked at that we just said those would work, those won't. So I think for the most part, we addressed a great deal of them. So I don't know how we make it up to artists that we either chose to fund or not. We'll certainly continue to offer opportunities to other artists or those same artists going forward. But I mean, the other thing I'd like to point out is just as an example, and it's not to pick on any one particular piece because it actually went very smoothly. So 15,000 and more, that actually started as 5,000 and more. It then was 10,000 and more, then 15,000 and more because of the rate of deaths. Actually, when the artist first proposed it, it was to represent the 5,000 lives lost to COVID in the state of California. That ended up switching to the over 20,000 lives that have been lost in Los Angeles County. And I bring that piece up because it went very smoothly, but I just want you all to be aware. I know you know that Jennifer works very hard and you always acknowledge that and you appreciate her as much as I do. But I think, I see all the emails that go by for a piece of art and the amount of labor that goes into just one piece is pretty overwhelming and amazing. So we can't do everything. I think you all judiciously went through the applications and you chose the ones that spoke to you the most. And I think that you Those are the ones you chose to fund. And, you know, if there's another piece that you think I think of, there was one, I think it was a Japanese, it was tied in with the Japanese American Museum. I think you were interested in it. You felt, oh, I don't know that you agreed to fund it. And we did, like, we've exhausted the budget. And so I think that might be one example of one that you funded. You chose not to fund, but the reason you chose not to fund was because you didn't think we could socially gather. So what was the point of it? So I can think of that one as one piece, and you may have others that you're thinking about. But, you know, we certainly, I think the group would be open to performing once we can gather. So if there is something that you looked at, then, you know, unless Michael Grant tells me we can't, but if we're continuing the AHA program, I'm not saying we should do additional calls, but if there was a particular piece, perhaps there's a way that we can, you know, bring it about that you're thinking of particularly. And then I'll be quiet. Thank you.
May I kind of respond back to that, or do we want to go down the line? Caroline, how?
Go ahead.
So I get exactly what you're saying. However, I think that if it was possible in the budget to have a smaller call, and I know that there's difficulty, it's a lot of work, but now that we're in 2021, now that there is a possibility, I mean, November, December you're falling into 2022. So I guess this would be way ahead. But I mean, talking now long term, it's like we want to keep AHA. We want to now move forward into the next phase, which is kind of, we're not post-COVID. We're kind of still in that little middle ground, but now we can kind of start enjoying the outdoors and whatnot. What can we do now? Can we start a new call where we now incorporate maybe some of the people that didn't make it in the last round, they can apply again and get a few more, because we love AHA. Obviously, we want to continue it. Maybe we can change the program into something different, but kind of do get more artists, more projects going. Like, I don't want to stop it here is basically what I'm trying to say, and just keep everybody we've had so far. Maybe we'll do another, incorporate some of the people from the past, get some new people, get some new projects going.
Can I ask a comment or ask some clarifying questions? 10 projects to me strikes me as a lot to produce within this time frame anyway, even with the extension. And it seems to me that there's several issues at play here. One being the Mural Ordinance, which obviously is going to take its time. So there's some projects that are being held back in that bucket, right? And then there's capacity questions of just the capacity to actually physically produce all of these projects. And then there's the COVID question, right? So I think what might be clarifying is if I can suggest for staff to kind of flesh out a production timeline for the remaining projects and be a little specific about like what is the reason why it's being pushed to certain dates. You know, that just might help clarify for me and maybe for the rest of the commission what projects, you know, how we need to be staggering these over time to both meet capacity issues, but also you know, COVID restrictions and the Mural Ordinance restrictions that we're dealing with kind of all at the same time. So that would be my suggestion to sort of clarify. And then if we look at that, we can see, oh, it seems like there might be some room here to invite an additional artist or an additional smaller performance, you know, when we know that COVID is over, you know, when we can gather, that sort of thing, that might help clarify, because it does seem like a lot already, even within that time frame.
Agreed.
Chairperson Tufekcian, if I may, I'm happy
Yes.
to go down the line and discuss each of the 10 projects and kind of where we are in regards to in response to Vice Chair Yang's proposal or recommendation. So I will go down the line as quickly as possible for each of the 10 projects that remain. for Yoshito Meditating in the Woods by Amy Chisholm and California Love with Aldo Chacon. As we mentioned earlier, those are the two mural projects. We are currently in the process of developing a mural ordinance and a mural approval process. So that is why there has been a temporary delay on those two specific projects. Meter pole art with Jennifer Benson Gable. We're working as quickly as possible to develop the designs for the actual meter pole art and putting them on the actual on the poles, the meter poles. That has been a COVID delay because we have not gained access to the meter poles due to the pandemic. We haven't been able to access the poles with the parking department, so there's the delay on that end. With impending storms with Blue Lumber Art Collective, that has been a delay in regards to location. The artists specifically wanted a location that was visible and open and interactive with the public. We have been suggesting different locations and doing research on potential locations for where that could be, but we have not found a location as of yet due to the pandemic to find that interactive location as they're hoping for. So that is a COVID-19 delay. Ride Like the Wind by Kathy Ferenda, as Director Schaefer mentioned, we're working with a Public Works Department and finding the location for that. So that is an interdepartmental working. Drive-Through Art Festival at the Museum of Neon Art, as we mentioned earlier, did require small public gatherings by, kind of busker festival-esque performances on the street, and we haven't been able to do that due to COVID-19. So that is temporarily on pause. We mentioned earlier Armenian Folk Dance and Music by Lernanzag Ensemble. Again, social distancing, public gatherings are prohibited, so we cannot do that. Projected Visions by Ryan Griffin. He has been in conversations with Glendale Arts to find a specific time and date and time for the projection to be on the back wall of the Alex Theater, and that has been a COVID-19 delay due to scheduling. Color and Dance by Versatile Dance Company. The commission requested that be an in-person an activity. So again, due to social distancing, we haven't been able to launch that exhibit. And Light Waves by 1111 Creative Collective, we have already discussed. But if that provides some type of background.
Commissioner Vidor?
I thank you very much, Jennifer. I have a question, though. I thought, and I may be mistaken, or I don't remember what we discussed at the meeting, but I was under the impression that with this Japanese activity that was best coupled with the annual Cherry Blossom Festival, that even though it's not the whole festival, it's a portion of the festival, it's like a specific event, that we had agreed that we would fund it. We just couldn't see our way clear to when the next festival would be. Obviously, that's a very big, crowded event that won't take place until we have total clearance. But I remember us agreeing to that project. So maybe I'm mistaken, but I'd just like to find out.
Sure, that's a great question, Commissioner Vidor. And as Director Schaefer mentioned, that was a very unique situation, as you were saying. I believe, to my recollection, the commission really enjoyed the proposal and was very much a supporter of the proposal, but due to the timeline, as we discussed, of it launching before June 30, 2021, the commission decided to have them, to re-invite them to apply if we were to open the AHA program again in 2021.
Oh, I
at
see.
that time.
So we would be reaching back out to them again.
And we would have had their application on file, and they could be in consideration for that next cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from fellow commissioners? Okay, so I feel that one of the goals of this project was to assist artists and to promote art in Glendale throughout this COVID period. And I realize we're not completely out of COVID. We are still within that time frame. But I do feel like, people benefited, the community benefited from seeing the projects that did go up. and for us to completely abandon everything and leave it for next year, I don't know. I just feel like it's better to have something for people, for the community to look forward to. So if we can, maybe visit some of these projects that might be that we might be able to open up sooner than later. Possibly, what was it? I think the polls. Once that is, once we're able to access the polls, if that can be done, I don't think it's going to draw a big crowd at any given time. People would, and if any of the other projects we could roll out this summer, it would be great. If not, maybe, and this is a suggestion, if we could put out a new call for projects that would be, I guess, COVID friendly or COVID acceptable projects, and those might be things that we roll out this summer.
Can I ask
Vice Chair Yank?
Yeah, just a clarifying question. Jennifer, this motion is suggesting that it's a production timeline extension. It's not that no projects would happen until June 2022. Is that my understanding?
That is correct, and it is an extension of the timeline. So, God willing, we can have projects continue to launch within the next year or so. Obviously, for sure, the meter pole art will hopefully launch soon. In addition to Ryan Griffin's projected visions, hopefully the Drive Through Art Festival by Mona and all these kind of smaller engagement gatherings can happen within the year. But absolutely, yes, for clarification, it's an extension of the timeline because per the original Art Happens Anywhere guidelines, these specific projects had a deadline to launch by June 30 of 2021.
Okay.
And yeah, and my hesitation about putting out a new call is just that, like I said previously, this is a lot of projects to do even in 1 year. And I worry that even a new call, we would still run into COVID issues that were unanticipated. It feels like many of these projects, we thought they were COVID safe, like the meter pole one, and it turns out that because of the just massive coordination that needs to happen in terms of producing public art, these issues arise even though you think that it's not actually due to gathering or county restrictions. So that's sort of my feeling on the manner is that this is a lot of projects, and if they do roll out over this next year, that it will feel very active anyway.
Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I will go ahead and make a motion. Let me just read the motion. And it is to approve the production timeline extension for 10 remaining 2020-2021 Art Happens Anywhere projects to June 2022 due to the coronavirus pandemic.
I'll second that.
Great. Roll call, Commissioner Zadorian.
Yes.
Bayar.
Yes.
Vidor.
Yes.
Vice Chair Yank.
Yes.
Chairperson Tufenkian.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 5C, nominations for artist review and selection committees. And this would include the Adams Square Mini Park gas station, Art Happens Anywhere, the performance series, Brand Library, Plaza Series, and 222 East Concert Series, Beyond the Box, Mural Art Program, and Dia de los Muertos. We do realize in regards to the Brand Library, Plaza Series, and 222 East Concert Series, we unfortunately, due to the coronavirus pandemic, we did have to postpone those two series. So for 2021, we will be honoring the initial invitation that we had to those artists. So for this specific year, we would not necessarily need to have a new committee for the brand library repositories and 222D's concert series. So staff would propose to keep the 2 commissioners that are currently on that committee, just to for consistency of honoring last year's artists.
And Chairperson Tefankian, that was, I just would echo that. I want to make sure we do have a committee in case we're able to mount any concerts and we have cancellations, so that we could tap that committee for help on that. So we're not suggesting that we do away with the committee, but we just continue the current committee.
Sounds good. And how many members do we have per in each committee?
It is 2 commission members per committee.
Okay.
We can begin with the Adams Germany Park gas station.
And do we want to just, anybody who wants to nominate themselves?
I would like to nominate myself. I had a lot of fun on that committee 2 years ago.
Anyone else? If not, then I will join you. And then we have the Art Happens Anywhere. Would anyone want to nominate themselves for that one?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
To Finky, I assume based on what Dr. Schaefer said that you and I are still on the Brand Plaza Series
Yes.
222 East thing, because that's what we did last time. So we're already on a committee. So does that mean, that's it then?
But if I remember correctly, I think we were each on 2 committees, right?
Oh, okay. I see.
Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes, it's correct. There's currently 5 committees, so it might be that one person is only on one committee. But yes, 2 commissioners per committee.
Okay.
So for Art Happens Anywhere, does anybody?
I'll do it.
Okay. And do we have anyone else?
I can do that one.
Okay. And then we have the Beyond the Box.
I really enjoyed that one. I'd like to do another season of that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Ayar. And anyone else?
I would love to do that one as well.
Okay. And the last one is Dia de los Muertos. Anyone for that one?
Can I just ask what that committee, this would, I didn't attend the last Dia de los Muertos, so I'm just curious what that committee oversees.
Thank you, Vice Chair. That's a great question. Not last year, I'm getting my years confused because of COVID. In 2019, we partnered with the Glendale Latino Association and the City Clerk's Office to support a piece of art, sponsor a piece of art at the Dia de los Muertos celebration, which happens on Arts Avenue. So it would be a committee to review proposals for that art piece, proposing it would happen again.
I'd be happy to do that one.
I have a question. Are we not going to assign any specific commissioner to the cultural? I mean, I don't know what we're calling that committee, or was that not part of the same concept?
That's a great question, Commissioner Zadorian. To my understanding, the work that would be happening on the cultural equity and inclusion work would encompass the entire commission, not a specific committee. But Director Schaefer, is that correct?
I actually,
Yes.
okay, I prefer that. Sorry, we can continue.
And would that be at on a special meeting, or would it be during our regular meetings?
I can address that, Chair Tefankian. So we are actually creating a scope of work for that and presenting that to a leading consultant here in Los Angeles. We're hopeful to have them come to our next meeting, present that to you, get any input you all have on that scope of work. And then, it would depend on what that consultant recommends. I suspect it will be discussed both in regular meetings, and there very likely would be a special meeting as well. But I don't want to speak for that consultant until we get that all hammered out.
Thank you. Okay. Dia de Muertos, we only have Vice Chair Yank. Anybody else?
I can join Commissioner Yank on Dia de los Muertos. I was on that committee for the last one, and it didn't happen. So I'll be glad to do that again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So I think that's it. So do we have a motion to move this?
I don't believe there's a requirement to have a motion, but I will read off the committee members as a reference.
Okay.
So for the Adams Square Mini Park gas station, we have Commissioner Zadorian and Chairperson Tufankian. Art Happens Anywhere, we have Commissioner Vidor and Vice Chair Yank. Brand Library Plaza Series and 22 East Concert Series, Chairperson Tufankian and Commissioner Vidor. Beyond the Box Mural Art Program, we have Commissioner Villar and Commissioner Zadorian. And Dia de los Muertos, we have Vice Chair Yank and Commissioner Villar.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We don't vote on that as an action item?
It does not need to be a motion because it's just stated into the record as we just did.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. So then moving on.
Okay. Discussion items, sorry, apologies. Agenda item 6, discussion items report 2A, 6-month work plan progress updates. 1, City Right Arts, Armenian Genocide Remembrance Month call for artists. As stated in the report, the Artist Review and Selection Committee met on March 5th to review 8 applications which were received for this opportunity. 2 of them have been chosen as finalists. I will bring up the 2 finalist proposals.
Sorry,
For a second. I'm sorry?
who is on that committee?
That is Vice Chair Yank and Commissioner Villar.
Okay, and what is that considered as a committee?
That was culturally specific calls for artists.
Okay, so that was what I was referring to when I asked my question earlier. So when you said that all the commissioners are part of, that's what I'm referring to.
My apologies, I misunderstood the question. It was my understanding also that we were taking a temporary pause on that until the work had been completed. But Director Schaefer, if we would like, or Mr. Grant, if it's possible, we can create a new committee for that.
I think right now we're in a pause on that until we speak with the consultant. So there's not really a need to form that committee, but presumably something like that will come out. We just don't know how that's going to, what the consultant is going to recommend. So it's hard to, figure out, do we need that committee or not? So we can certainly appoint that committee if it's needed, which it probably will be in some form or fashion, but they may even say, oh, that should be the work of the entire commission. Or they may say, this is a different way you could do those types of pieces. So my suggestion would be we just wait until we know exactly what that committee is going to be doing before we form it.
Okay.
The commission can do what you guys wish to do.
Okay, then we'll probably have that discussion later, but I do want to recommend that as an inclusion diversity committee, I think all of us should have a say and be part of the reviewing process. Just because the more opinions you have, probably the better in this case. Because for something like, let's say, Armenian Genocide Remembrance Month, I would have liked to have been included in the conversation and given my, share in my piece on what I would recommend, because so far I hadn't heard anything until right now for the presentation. But I'm more than positive that I will trust and love everything that comes forward.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other thoughts?
Question?
Yes, Commissioner Vidor.
I'm not sure that, we're giving very specific updates on everything, but I think in the future, there are two main areas that we're going to have to track progress on. So maybe we put them as standing items, and then it could either be update or no update, but one of them would be the LaBasse program, which is starting to get cooking. And then also the Mural Ordinance or Mural Program Development process, that those really stay on our radar screens because they're both very big things that we're involved in, and we want to stay abreast of all the progress that's being made. So under citywide arts, I might want to have those be standing topics. What do you think?
Very good suggestion.
I agree.
Absolutely, Commissioner Vidor, we can make sure to add that as a standing item in those sections of the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, I'm going to pull up some photos that were representative of the two finalists that were chosen by the committee. Please bear with me for 1 second. The first proposal is from an artist collective, She Loves Collective, which is a collective of artists, activists, female artists and activists throughout the city that are of Armenian descent. They are proposing the utilization of the storefronts on Artsakh Avenue, specifically 3 storefronts. The project is entitled My Relics, and is really focusing on remembrance and acknowledgement of the Armenian genocide of 1915 and also the recent attacks on Artsakh. So each storefront has its specific theme and installation. The first storefront is entitled My Relics, which would be these tapestries, 50-yard long tapestries that would focus on heirlooms and relics of Armenian culture. The second installation storefront would be focused on lavash and the making and the process of that, and would feature a projected film either on the wall of the storefront or in a TV screen in the storefront that would talk about the culture and the process of making the bread. And the third storefront is entitled Salvation, which would focus on acknowledging the lives lost to the genocide and the shoes of representative folks that had been lost during this atrocity. So this entire project would take place throughout the month of April. As soon as we can get the artists into the storefront, they would like to begin installing, and it would be a cohesive 3 storefront installation that would focus on this theme of My Relics. And it would take place during the month of April 2021. The second finalist is called Eternal Armenia by artists Margarita Simonian, Yeva Babayan, and Vereja Balakian at Central Park. This particular proposal is focused on the vision. It's a 16-foot truss sculpture. It's gorgeous and huge. And all these small red dots are actually red LED poppies that would represent the lives lost of the soldiers lost during the war, and would be scattered across the lawn at Central Park. This particular proposal had a very quick turnaround of April, early April to mid-April for sure, before the 24th. So staff is proposing that there is a postponement of this because it's such a tight turnaround. It's such a huge undertaking to produce this, to postpone it to the next year. But those are the 2 proposals. I would also like to invite the committee members to comment on them as well.
Could I add that you, Jennifer, reached out to that artist group, and they were amenable to that, just given the scale of it, as well as the what they're trying to pull off. And understand we would have to go to the Parks Commission at their next meeting, get their approval, which is days before this would launch, as well as have a structural engineer sign off on it, and so on. So just wanted to add that.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Director Schaefer. I reached out to both artists and received clarification for both proposals. But yes, for the eternal Armenian sculpture, they would actually prefer a postponement if possible, just so that they have enough time to properly launch the exhibit. But I'd also like to invite the committee members to comment as well.
All right, any comments? Commissioner Viard?
No, just that we did in committee spend a lot of time talking about the lead time for that Eternal Armenia. I think it looks like a fabulous installation, so we want to do it justice. And there is some risk in waiting for the Parks Commission meeting to occur just a few days before. And since the artists are so willing and actually would prefer to wait, then I think we should support them that way.
Thank you. Commissioner Vidor?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the fact that you have the lovely and clever and looks very nice storefront exhibition on ArtSoc, which is very appropriate, coming in, that there will be something this April, which is good. And that it makes sense given the scope of this thing and the complexity of it to delay. And it makes me think about the fact that, you know, the more we delve into artist calls and the more, you know, well-known we become, the bigger and more complex the art projects are going to be, and that we should revisit our timelines for putting out calls, the length of the call, and then the time frame between the closure of the call, the selection, and the execution, because I sense that this problem might arise over and over again or in the future. So I totally agree with delaying it until next year. And I think it looks so fantastic that maybe it should stay up for a couple of months, you know, April, and then maybe another month after that. But I think the main thing is to really look at these timelines and the logistics of them for every art project. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Absolutely, Commissioner Vidor. I 110% agree with you. Specifically with this call for artists, again, due to the pandemic that we had, unfortunately, we were going to share the draft with the commission in December. And due to the pandemic, we weren't able to have a commission meeting in December. And then we had it approved in January, and then we're able to release it that shortly thereafter. So we lost a month due to the pandemic, but obviously moving forward, we definitely want to make sure that we release those calls for artists as quickly and as manageable within the timeline as possible.
Yeah, and I think that the more we, you know, I'm always on this like a broken record, but I think that the more we define the processes in which departments have to approve things and all the engineering that goes into some of these things, the better fix we'll get on realistically how long these things take to actually produce.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Commissioner Zadorian?
Thank you. So I just want to go over it again. So it's going to be postponed from April until when exactly? Is it next April?
Yes, Commissioner Sidori, we're proposing it would be launched next April of April 2022.
Okay. And I'm sure this discussion already happened in the meeting, but why is it not that we're asking them to just come back next year, not paying for or budgeting it now and finding a different piece or something else? So there's 2 this year, and then we keep that one for next year, and it's budgeted in the 2022 budget.
Commissioners, oh, yes, please, Vice Chair.
I just wanted to jump in from the committee perspective. They were really the only 2 viable projects, to be perfectly honest. We really looked through all of the other ones, and just nothing else came anywhere near in terms of quality. So, you know, those were the 2 viable projects. The Relics one was able to be produced. We had serious questions about just the scale and ambition of the sculpture. And so wanted Jennifer just to talk to the artists more and see like how feasible was this. So, you know, I think we felt very strongly that it was a great piece. And that's kind of how we landed on that decision.
Okay. And then I had another question in regards to, so I know that there's going to be some complication with trying to go to the Parks Commission, get this approved. There's a very short timeline. But from what I'm hearing, the artists were willing to work on that timeline, but they're more comfortable waiting till next year. Is that correct?
That's correct. It felt like a very quick timeline on every end, whether it's internally with staff or with the artist. Realistically, they could only begin working on the project after Parks Commission had approved the usage of Central Park. So the Parks Commission meeting is on April 19th, which would only give the artists 4 or 5 days to launch the sculpture at Central Park. It's possible. The artists reassured me that they have a master builder as part of their collective who could build something in a day. But it felt very tight and very up in the air because we don't know for sure if we had Parks Commission's approval. Okay, that explains a lot. And I agree then to approve one. My only thing is, so I'm not sure who said it, might have been Commissioner Vidor. Definitely the timeline is going to need to be kind of, if we're approving this March 18th for April, then we're definitely very delayed and behind on approval and discussing this. If even in the mural ordinance and all of these different aspects, if we want to get things approved by other commissions or city staff, we know it's going to take a lot longer. So making the timeline so we have at least minimum 3 months ahead to also provide artists the time to prepare, provide city staff and other commissions to approve, just for, and this should be like an umbrella statement for all of our projects from now on, to get things ahead of time. And then my second part of that is, if we're not going to have it this year, why approve it this year? Why not hold off, keep that money allocated, and that can be used for another project, something else, and then approve next year for this project? Why pay for it now for something a year from now when we could pay for it technically from the 2022 budget?
May I?
Oh, sure, Director Schaefer.
Chair Tefankian, Commissioner Zadorian, normally in city budgets, I would absolutely agree with you. We wouldn't want to set the money in this year's budget for next year's, but the way the art fund works, you know, we don't, until we spend the money, like the money, and until the art is mounted, you know, we're not paying for it. So in essence, the money will come from next year's budget. So we won't be, it will free up funds this year for other things. So don't worry about that. The other thing I might say is just, you know, April, I certainly understand why they wanted to mount this in April. And that is kind of was our desire. That's what we put in the call. But in truth, you know, every day is, you know, Armenian Day in Glendale. The commission may decide that, and the artists together may decide, you know, do we want to wait until next April? Do we want to mount it sooner? So that is something for the artists and for you all to discuss. Does it make sense? The other thing is the Armenian Museum is going into Central Park. They're going to be breaking ground on that later this year. Might we have to relocate it somewhere else if that comes to pass? And they kind of vision this in Central Park. So those are just things for, you know, I think we don't have to decide today. Let's get to the Parks Commission, get them to approve it in theory and concept. And then together we can decide what is the best timing for this with the artists, would be my suggestion.
Okay. I think we lost Caroline. So if Vice Chair wants to step in.
Yes, any other contacts or comments or questions? I just wanted to say too that I, you know, I would be maybe considering having it be one of those summer projects, you know, if that is something that we've been talking about, you know, activating some of the public spaces during the summer. I think it could really work for that. Maybe, you know, if the artists are amenable it may not be what was initially intended, but you know, it's something to consider if it is approved to go in that site. And actually, if the Armenian Museum is going there, it could be there could be some nice kind of kismet and symbolism in that location. So just a thought from me.
I actually do agree with that. Maybe we do approve now. Maybe we don't wait till April. We enjoy it in the summertime while we still have the space available to us.
Commissioner Zadori and I agree with you, and I will absolutely follow up with the artist and see if they would be amenable to that.
And if not, either way, giving them enough time to prepare this piece because it is grand. So the more time we give them, the better it'll be.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, is there any action needed on this?
Just a discussion item.
Mm-hmm. This is a discussion item, correct. I will just continue to read the agenda for this item. So 2, neighborhood arts, no update. 3, performing arts, no update. 4, arts and cultural events, no update. And I did get a message from Chair Tiffington that she's having Wi-Fi issues, but I'm not sure if we have her back yet. Oh, I think we might have lost her. Okay.
Okay. Great. Next item.
Agenda item 7, commission staff comments.
I'll say something.
Yeah.
I just would like to thank publicly the artist Pascaline Dusan. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, who has Another Life up in the Adams Square Mini Park, and she did actually have a digital reception, which was well attended by a number of local people in Adams Hill with a moderator and a discussion and a little video, and it was really a nice thing. And I think there's no reason that the Arts and Culture Commission has to sponsor something like that, but we could certainly, for the remainder of the pandemic, encourage people, if they would wish, artists, if they would wish to do that, to organize it with the local neighborhood association. And we could certainly invite the public to attend. And there are several of us who have Zoom Pro, so we can host a lot of people, and she was set up for that. So I just wanted to commend her for making that effort. It was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bayar, any comments?
No. Thanks.
Commissioner Zadorian?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Vice Chair Yank, I actually do have staff comments,
Yes, please.
but I didn't know if you had any comments.
Not from me at this moment.
Okay. I just wanted to let me turn my camera on. Wish to let you all know that we will, we kind of already talked about the cultural and equity and inclusion consultant, so I don't need to update you on that any further, but did want to let you know that we are in talks with a leading mural consultant to help us work through process and procedures. And so we're hopeful to bring that as an action item to the next commission meeting. That was something actually the Coro Fellow had suggested, some research she had done and others had done. So just want to let you know that that is moving forward. And then the other thing that we will also bring to next month's meeting is, so we are unsure at this time if we can mount the Brand Plaza series. And in fact, it would appear that we cannot do that where we normally do it. We just cannot have any kind of guarantee any kind of social distancing for that. So one of the ideas that we will be bringing to the next meeting is perhaps moving the location of that series temporarily, perhaps to Central Park while we can. This would bring some great programming that typically happens in North Glendale, make it more accessible perhaps to people in Southern Glendale. Would be a great way to kind of test how people respond to programming in that space. So just wanted to let you know that that would be, we don't know currently we cannot hold such gatherings per the county orders. But the hope is that those might be relaxed a bit. And so next month we may be bringing that. I actually, I don't know that commission needs to vote on that. But certainly if you have strong feelings about it, that would be something I would want us to discuss at the next meeting. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Director Schaefer. Okay, next agenda item.
Agenda item 8, written communications, we have none. So agenda item 9, adjournment.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Record time.
Thank you.
Everyone have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.